Hello, good evening, good evening. Welcome yet again to Etoila Europe Leadership Conversation, and it's so nice to be back yet again on this platform. I want to welcome all our viewers, our network, our associates, and all the people connecting for the first time as well. I welcome you especially here today. Wherever you're joining from, please subscribe, click the notification button as well so that you can always get a reminder alert to join this broadcast 9 p.m. UK time every Monday, 9 p.m. UK time. And our focus is leadership, 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 and leadership. Now, let me tell you something. Leadership is your business, it's my business, it's everybody's business because leadership literally determines everything. That's our focus for the last few weeks as well, and we've been looking at it from different angles as well. Leadership determines everything. So I just want to welcome everybody as they're joining us tonight as well, because we're going to be dealing with a case study today and quite a few comments and questions and thoughts that's been coming to us via different platforms from Instagram, from Facebook, and we've been bombarded with a whole lot of discussion. As you know, last week as well, we had with us our chairman and the son of our late founder, Dr. Miles Monroe. So we had Miles Monroe Jr. Last week. What a fantastic time. And I had a lot of comments from South Africa. I had comments from West Africa, from Europe as well, on what people really caught from that program as well. And I know that today is going to be another one like that. But today I'm here by myself. So I'm going to be looking at these questions as well. So please, if you have any thoughts, any questions, anything like that, just drop on the comment box as well. We want you to always leave your comments and your thoughts, questions as well. We definitely be addressing it because it's a conversation. We don't want it to be a one-way conversation. We want it to be a dialogue. It might be electronically and things like that, so we might be able to pick it up and come back to you as well. But we're looking at this as it's coming on board as well. So, and I said today we were going to go looking at some case study. We've been talking about different things, vision, purpose. We've been talking about all these different things, and Etoila is our focus is really the developing nation. We're here to train the trainers. We're here to impact leadership. We're here to contribute that quota of ours to the leadership issue in the developing world. If leadership determines everything, that means we need to be doing something. Everybody's got to be doing something. The state, the quality of our nation, of our continent, of our developing world, of Africa, part of where all our work is going on, the state of that place right now is directly related to the quality of leadership that is in place. If that's the case, then we know what to do. We got to fix it. But for some reason, it looks like we're not, people are not really focusing on fixing that leadership. It just seems to be going worse and going from bad to worse and chaotic, And so we got to do something and stop complaining about it. I think that was the thing for me. I got to a place whereby I got tired of talking about the state of Africa, the state of my country, Nigeria, the state of Zimbabwe, and some other countries that I really frequent and go do work. And I thought to myself, what can I do? And the same thing, every one of us can do something, because you got to understand that leadership is inherent in every one of us. Good evening, good evening. You're all welcome. I see people logging in from Nigeria, people logging in from England, there, from different parts of UK. Good evening. So we're all part of the business of leadership, because good evening. It's inherent in all of us. All of us has a role to play in leadership because we're all born leaders. By the way, that's a concept that you got to have at the back of your mind. That leadership is not a title, an office, a position somebody gives you. But leadership is inherent in every individual. It starts with you discovering your gift and what you're supposed to use to impact your world. And in that area, you can carve your territory whereby you become the lead person. So discovery of your gift introduces you into your leadership that you're supposed to use to impact. So a lot of people are impacting our world. They're not necessarily politicians, but they have a lot of impact. They become role models. They become, people that we can look up to. They stand, for certain standards. They set certain standards for our world, and people begin to look to them as well. So it's in everyone. There's no one that is born without that leadership in them. Number two, you got to understand that even followership is the purpose of followership is intended for leadership. You follow in order for you to get to the front. If you don't follow them, you can't get to where the one that's leading you is as well. It's very, very important. But today, please remember again as well, let me just reiterate that we want you to please subscribe to this channel. We want you to introduce others, send the link to family, sons, daughters, uncles, people in business, people in governments, and get them to watch some of this clip, because the things we're talking about literally concerns everybody. It will bring a change. And the more we spread the fire, the more we can begin to feel the impact of it as well. Our world has a chaos, a leadership crisis. That everything that you see today going on is a product of somebody making a decision, somebody doing something, or somebody not doing something that they're supposed to be doing. So you see a war right now in our world right now that is causing a major chaos in our world is because a leader of a nation has decided that I'm going to war, and leaders are gathering all around. People are gathering in their families, in their communities, and this is impacting us, and we're looking at what are we going to do about this? The same thing in some of our communities, in our families, in our businesses as well. There's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of crisis. So we need to know there's a demand for quality leadership. Leadership is as simple as we telling our sons and our daughters to go clean your room, clean the kitchen, clean the living room, take care of that place, tidy it up. Leadership is responsibility as well. Anyone that takes responsibility is displaying a leadership trait. That's how basic it must be to us. And that's why, I think I was pushing, and I'm still pushing as an organization, that we need to begin to teach leadership as a course, as a subject from our nursery elementary schools, to high schools and things like that. We need to have a course on leadership so that we can literally build a nation, a community of leaders, not a world of a leader. So we don't want to have an organization with a leader, but we want to build an organization, a family, a community of leaders that literally everybody has a spirit of, responsibility. Everybody is doing and contributing something. Very, very important. Thank you so much for all that intro. Okay. Today, by the way, I'm by myself. I'm not by myself. I'm with all of you, as many who will be joining us tonight, and all those who will be watching this podcast as well later. Thank you so much for all the comments all through the week. You've kept us busy as well. And that's why I'm going to have that conversation based on some of the comments and discussions that we've had all through the week. Welcome. Oh my God, all the way from Nigeria again as well. Wow. Definitely, I can see that there's a desire, from our developing worlds for people, especially, and I'm seeing, some wonderful young people who are also pushing on the subject of leadership in their communities as well, and from the university sector as well. My God, this is a passion that is so noble. Right. Okay. So we said leadership determines everything. And I gave a quote. I said, Alexander the Great, said, an army of sheep led by a lion will always defeat an army of lions led by a sheep. That quote literally is all about the impact of leadership, what leadership can do. That means no matter how dumb a sheep is, and you got to understand something about a sheep. If anybody calls a sheep, it's not a compliment. It's just trying to show you how dumb those people are. And what kind of state we're in and where we're supposed to be going, because some people tend to use the word sheep as a compliment. No, sheep has been seen to be one of the dumbest animals ever. But if they're led, now listen to this, if they're led by a lion, literally the sheep can take up the attitude of the one that they're following. And that is what brings me to the next question. Who are you following? What are you following? What is leading you? Because whatever is leading you will take you to where it's going. And that is why, there's a saying that if the blind leads the blind, now the blind can't see, doesn't know where it's going. Now he's leading other blind people. The destination already is the ditch. You can't get anything better than the ditch, But if you can get someone that can see, lead the blind, it will look like the blind can see. Oh my God, did you get that? So we need someone that can see. So we can't all be blind and being led by the blind. We're not going to go anywhere. Now, we said case study. We'll look at leadership in Africa. Now, somebody now say, so if leadership determines everything, then our African countries, now this is how the first way, the situation of our African nations, and the person was so particular about Africa, but I will stretch it more to all our developing nations, can be blamed on our leaders. Now, discuss. So my discussion on that was, yeah, that's true, but that's not the whole truth. Number one, majority of that can be blamed on the leaders, and I'm going to come to that. But also, some of it rests on you and I, on the things that we should have done that we did not do. By the way, in most cases, we chose those blind leaders. We blindly chose them. And there's a saying, I listened to this and I've been thinking about, I've had my thinking around this conversation for quite a while, that people get the kind of leaders that they deserve. And if you study it very well, it seems to be some element of truth in it. That literally the kind of leaders we get sometimes is what we deserve, because we purposely choose them. When we choose leaders that we know can't take us anywhere, we know their traits, we know their character, we know the things, we know who they stole from, we know that they have a very questionable character, life, background. And it's like, I had a leader say this once before, one of the presidents of a country, I'll just skip the name, and he said, look, my public life has got nothing to do with my private life. And he was trying to justify certain things. And we said, no, there's a problem here. Look, your private life is your public life. So we know some of these guys that they're terrible, and we still choose them because of our own greed, because they gave us something, a piecemeal. Then you can complain about the leaders. So in some of the developing worlds, literally, we're getting the results of what we did to ourselves. Just like I posted during the week. If leadership is directly related to the quality or to the state of our communities, of our nations, of our countries, then we know exactly what to do to fix our developing nation. Change the leaders, remove the leaders, because in most of the cases, we put the leaders there, especially within the democratic form of government as well. So majority of the issue might lie with the leaders, but also quite a lot of the concern and the blame is on every one of us. You and I, we're responsible for that. So we choose incompetent leaders and we're expecting a developed world suddenly. No, it doesn't work like that. So you and we got to understand that whatever is happening in our communities today, I actually contributed. Even if I did not vote for those leaders, I indirectly contributed to it as well. So saying I'm not going to vote is literally saying I'm just going to allow any fool to rule us. Keeping quiet in our homes, I'm not saying anything. In fact, we need to begin to intentionally raise a new breed of leaders. And I want to go back as deep as a family unit, because the people that you see in leadership today, in any office, in any form of leadership today, they came from a home. Whoever they are, whoever brought them up, whatever they learned in that home is now being manifested. They've been like that since they were in the home, and they were, just rubbing their ears and things like that. Now they've not enlarged their horizon with that attitude that they had since they were in secondary school, since they were, some of the guys, I knew some guys when we were in school, and my God, they were just something. Now you see them in certain offices, and you still see, a magnified format of that character that we're talking about. So we got to understand that you and I will have a role. When you need to be on the school governor's board, you need to run for office when you're in university, you need to run for office in your community, you need to have be part of the the neighborhood watch or something like that. You need to be part of any form of community. Self-develop as well, because there's something that you're supposed to be contributing to your community that everybody's waiting for. Oh my God, I think our time is really running. So we all have leadership inherent in us, and we need to use it to impact our world. So our quality of leadership is proof of our ignorance as a people as well. Oh my God, can I say that again? The quality of leadership that you see in our world, in our organizations, in our firms, in our government, is proof of how ignorant we as a people are as well. And that's a very deep subject. So we got to look at and decide. We got to be intentional. We got to be educated and decide we do not want this kind of leaders anymore. So we got to be part of the solution. and not just what things, whatever, you do not, if you're looking at something and you don't do anything about it, then it won't change. It won't change. Okay, now, someone commented as well. Let me quickly move on. Someone commented and said something to me about, and I said, this is a case study, by the way. Please make sure you subscribe as well, press the notification bell so that you can be part of this discussion every Monday evening, 9 p.m. UK time. Someone commented about the leadership of Rwanda. And, and some other people along the same discussion, they now, actually accuse that leadership of being a dictatorship leadership. Now they said, what's my take, JD? Wow. Now Rwanda is a place I've visited a few times. It's a country since I visited the place, my life has changed. I've continued to study. I've been there to actually speak on leadership. I've also been invited once again back by somebody actually came to me from the government within the judiciary system, and they wanted me to speak on character and leadership. So what's my opinion? First, I don't know if it's a dictatorship leadership or not. But one thing I know, I don't want to get into that story. One thing I know is that, that I've seen is that when you see strong and bold leadership, people always seem and deem them to be dictators most of the time. When you see strong leadership, bold leadership, most of the time, a lot of people who are called political leaders, they are not bold. They are not leaders, by the way. By the way, let me put this in. A politician is not by default a leader. You got to understand that politicians live to win another election. So you come in through an election, the democratic system, in order to be part of the leadership process for a country, for a nation. Okay, that's one thing. That's the first step you get to the office. Now you need to transit from that political mindset into a leadership role. And this is the place whereby you change, your entire life change. You lay your life down. You got business to do. If you love being loved, you like to be popular, then you're going to remain a politician. Now, one thing that is evident about Rwanda, and I can use Rwanda, as a case study for the East African war, but Rwanda stands out in the midst of all that, is that in the midst of the developing world, in the midst of the continent of Africa, it has been, and in the midst of all that chaos and mess, Rwanda has been able to distinguish itself. I'm telling you, it's such a small country, but you go to the place, God, your life will change. You come out of the airport. In fact, from the airport, you will notice a totally different kind of place. You feel that you're no more in Africa. Now, if it's a dictatorship leadership or not, I don't know. Now you got to understand that Rwanda came out of the most horrific situation, a genocide that crippled the country. Crippled the country about 28 years ago. Now, the country is being compared, or is being used to tag as the African Singapore. I think that's what they call it, the African Singapore. Now, one thing we got to notice is that leadership always creates movement. Leadership is about vision. So leadership will always create movement. It talks about a better place. That means it's always going to move you from the present. And I don't know how bad the present is, how terrible the present is, but it always promises you an unknown future, but better. So if a country that's crippled by genocide has moved to the country whereby it's so peaceful, they don't kill, they don't steal, they don't lock their doors, they just close the door. They don't fight on the streets, they don't have armed robbery, they don't shoot each other. The country is so peaceful, everybody wants to come and invest there. Then there must be some sort of quality leadership. Now, I've also heard, that this time that, the leadership is a benevolent dictatorship, meaning, one person has a final decision making, all the authority rests on one person, however, is able to use it wisely, to benefit his people. Now, my take on that is that in most of our African nations, as you might see, and not that I'm trying to prescribe this in any way at all, we would have had a lot of movement if we can actually, use some of this kind of benevolent dictatorship, because the kind of people that we have sometimes need a kind of solution that is not necessarily, what is being prescribed in some of the western part of the world, you got to understand as well that democracy is something that needs a lot of civility. Democracy can't work with people who are not particularly very civil. And you got to know where some of this Western world are coming from as well. They had a lot of dictators, they had a lot of enforcement of certain things before they were able to stable out. Sometimes people do not read history as well. So they just think everything is okay and everything's just going to be like that in some of the context of our developing world. So when you now look at it, that we have benevolent dictatorship, and it's working. Now we might be able to actually, take some text from that and use it in the right context, then improve on it as well. So we got to improve on some of this thing that we're talking about. That this is not. Don't just say it's not good. It's producing results. And if you go to the country, you will see that there's visionary leadership there. Visionary leadership. And one thing is so evident that in most of our developing world, we don't have any vision at all. We don't have a clear cut of where we're coming from, where we're going. Now, Rwanda they literally have a plan for the country. Now, if the man is a dictator or not, I don't know. But the people seem to be loving the place. So I've heard testimonies of people that left the Western world, moved from Europe, moved from America, moved from Canada, and said, I am going back to Rwanda. They were not forced back home. And you're not enforced to stay in the place. You can move out of the country if you choose to. And I've seen people moving from other African nations and going to say, I'm going to go stay in Rwanda. Then there must be some quality of leadership that is going on there. I once had a testimony that in Rwanda, people began to move their children from the private school into the public school because the public school was able to deliver better quality of education. Now, that is leadership. That is leadership. Now, in other parts of Africa, I know that, some people, even in leadership authority, some people in higher position, they use that to suppress and oppress other people. My son, my daughter goes to a private school. I don't know what they do in the public school. Now, some don't have a choice because the public school are totally broken. Now, is that leadership? So some people sometimes ask me, JD, are you saying there's no leadership in Africa? I said, okay, let's go back a few years, and I can take you back to Nigeria, for example. At some point in time, I think in the 1980s, 81, 82, 83, literally you can buy $1 with 55 pence, with 55 kobo. We use kobo as a Louis unit in Nigeria. So you can use 55 kobo to buy $1. Now today, oh my God, you don't even want to know what the exchange rate is. Now, is that leadership? Because we have moved, definitely. But where did we move? Backwards or forward? So we got to understand that we've had a lot of movement, but most of the time is in the wrong direction, and which shows the quality of leadership that we have. Now, put it better, visionary, benevolent dictatorship might be a useful tool that we might need to research. And I want everybody to go think about that. I have quite a number of people who are leadership gurus in the house. So drop it on your and say, JD Modede says, let us research visionary, benevolent dictatorship might be something that we might need to begin to first apply. We need someone that can take decisions, enforce the decisions to get us in the right track, not the place where we are right now, that we have in democracy political leadership that breeds on popularity, but it's a big scam. They're just sucking us dry. They're taking everything. How can a government, a leadership in a country in Africa cannot give us just basic electricity? That's because we don't have love for the people, And, this whole thing opens us to a whole lot of kind of mess, So there's no, so our development is definitely, stunted, So in this case, you don't have one person, but we have a select few in this political scam, who continue to milk, suppress the majority citizenry, So we take a look at Rwanda, whatever it has produced, whatever they call it, it has produced results that is commanding the attention of our world today. And now, if you've placed, okay, I'm not. They didn't send me to come and promote Rwanda. Well, you see something good, you got to promote it. Look, if you've not been to Rwanda, just go on a holiday. Go on. There's a whole lot of developed nations you can't go on a holiday there. You're just going for a stress. But and that's a reasonable cost, well-cost holiday. Go to Rwanda. Everything works. Roads are good. There's electricity. There's water. There's no fear of bandits. There's no killings on the road. There's no armed robbery. Just go and just take time out, a week or two or something like that, and you fly the Rwanda here as well. They have their own airline as well. No matter how small they are, and they're brand new planes as well. It looks like I like this place. I might get invited back to the place. So look at the place. Now if we start with that, then we can improve on that type of leadership. I think it's a kind of leadership that we got to investigate. I might just need to take one more thing as well. So somebody said, talk to us about political leadership in Nigeria and West Africa, and the West African territory generally. I'm just going to just be able to squeeze something in there. Now, where do I start? I'm trying to say, look at where we are. We were 40 years back, and I said leadership commands movement. So 40 years ago, we had a holy boom, okay, and we didn't know what to do with it. However, we did some things, we had electricity working, we had good roads, we didn't have armed robbery and things like that. We had free education. You could go to school, they would give you lunch, they would give you milk in school, they give you snacks, quality of education. We're building universities. Oh my God. You need to come to the university I went to. It's a fantastic university. It's a whole city. You need to look at what's built. In most of the Western world, you won't see those kind of buildings there. So today now, 40 years later or more, we can't even, we're opening universities, we don't have buildings. And we build buildings that sometimes it's a sham. You look at it and thinking, who built this? That's the kind of thing that you now look at some of the, especially I'm talking about, I'm using Nigeria as a context now. 40 years ago, the dollar was, the naira was stronger than the dollar. And that means there's something lacking. First thing is vision. We lack visionary leadership who are also dishonest, who have no love for their people. I was listening to a guy on TV who was doing a show and just going through the UAE and using Dubai as an example. And he said, no one can do this without love for the people. Because those leaders are not the ones that's going to use all those facilities, but they're looking at a world whereby their citizenry, their people can have a fantastic experience. It's not just about money, but what do you do with it? Do you have a vision? If you're visionless, money means nothing. So because now elections are about to hold again, for the next Nigerian president and things like that. And someone said, what's your advice? I said, for the people to come out and vote for any candidate, they must demand from every candidate a national vision that they're able to explain how they're going to deploy it and how it can be passed down to another generation. If that's the only thing I'm going to say today, the country of Nigeria and African nations, generally developing nations, most of the time we have no vision. And it shows that you have no plan for the people. Do you have a vision for the health sector? Do you have a vision for the yet unborn children? We don't even have electricity. How can you deal with that in the 21st century? It shows we do not love the people. And we come out and we speak a whole lot of English and the people are so confused. Giving the people money to vote for you is the deepest kind of hatred that you can literally have for anything. By the way, my time is up. But look, we're going to continue this conversation next week, and I have a fantastic guest coming all the way from Africa. He's going to be talking to us about this. He's a leadership consultant as well, and he's going to be talking about this as well. So please join us next week, Monday. Same channel, same time, 9 p.m. UK time, Etoila Europe leadership conversation. By the way, you want to know a little bit more about Etoila as well, please watch this clip and you get to know.
Hi, my name is Miles Monroe Jr., and I'm the chairman of the board for the International Third World Leaders Association. Our organization was birthed to respond to and address the critical need for quality, effective leadership development and training in the emerging developing nations.
Our vision is to establish a global network of leaders from every discipline,
committed to the highest standards of excellence in leadership training, personal development,
mutual accountability, and fraternal support, implementing relevant and innovative leadership philosophy based on time-tested precepts, principles, and values.
Our mission is to influence the destiny of developing third world nations through leadership training,
personal development, supportive relationships, and global networking.
Our purpose is to provide transformational solutions
in response to the dynamic leadership needs of the emerging third world developing nations.
Our goal is to cultivate leadership commitment
to produce leaders
dedicated to the empowerment of their people,
the progressive well-being of their citizens,
and the betterment of their nation.
The strategic approach captured in the slogan coined by our founder, Dr. Miles Monroe,
was transforming followers into leaders and leaders into agents of change. Our focus is national development through transformational leadership,
transforming nations, communities from the inside out.
Join us in ushering in this new era of our organization.
We are tasked with carrying this vision forward,
and we are devoted to ensuring that we leave an unwavering legacy.
The organization that produces effective leaders
with global reach and influence.